to a homeless shelter for the first time on Thanksgiving Eve, when everyone else is fixing turkey and baking pies and preparing to count their blessings? Ryan gave him a sharp look. It had been Thanksgiving Eve, 17 years ago, when Father Francis had taken him to the St. Mary's shelter, scared and hungry and totally alone. Just 15. Ryan had been angry at the world and had barely managed to escape being arrested for shoplifting. Thanks to the priest's influence with the local police precinct and the outraged shop owner. "No, I can't imagine anything sadder," he said tersely, "as you well know." "What do you want?" Father Francis smiled, a twinkle in his eye. "Not so very much. Will you talk to them tomorrow? Your own story is an inspiration to many in the neighborhood. Hearing what you've accomplished under difficult circumstances will give them a reason to hope." "I imagine you think I can find work for at least one of them as well," Ryan said with a note of resignation in his voice. There had been a time when he'd had a formal business plan for his pub, complete with goals and bottom-line projections. Taking in Father Francis's strays had pretty much thrown that plan into chaos. But if the priest had asked him to cater a funeral in hell, he would have found some way to do it. Hopefully, this latest request would require less drastic action. "Well," he prodded. "One, or both. The fact of the matter is, I understand the mother is a wonderful cook. Didn't you tell me that you're short-staffed in the kitchen?" Father Francis inquired innocently. Before Ryan could reply, he rushed on. "And with the holiday season coming on, you'll be busier than ever in here as folks gather to warm up a bit after their shopping. And some of the local businesses like to use your back room for their Christmas parties, isn't that right? Perhaps you could use another waiter, at least through New Year's." Ryan cursed his loose tongue. He was going to have to remember that Father Francis was a sneaky, devious man, always looking to pair up his strays with people who casually remarked on some need or another. There had been one point when half his waitresses had been unwed mothers-to-be. For a brief time, he'd been certain his private dining room was going to wind up as a nursery, but even Father Francis had stopped short of making that request. The priest's grudging acknowledgement that a pub was no place for infant daycare suggested, however, that the thought had crossed his mind. "Hiring an extra waiter is no problem. As for the woman, can she fix corned beef and cabbage, Irish stew, soda bread?" Ryan asked. The priest looked vaguely uncomfortable. "Isn't it time for a bit of a change?" He pulled the bright green laminated menu from its rack on the counter and pointed out the entrees that had been the same since the opening on St. Patrick's Day, 8 years ago. Even the daily specials had remained constant. "It's a bit boring, don't you think?" "This is an Irish pub," Ryan reminded him dryly. "And my customers like knowing they can count on having fish and chips on Fridays and stew on Saturdays." "But people eventually tire of eating the same old things. Perhaps a little spice would liven things up." "Spice?" Ryan studied him warily. "What exactly can this woman cook?" The priest's expression brightened. "I understand her enchiladas are outstanding," he reported enthusiastically. Ryan frowned. "Let me get this straight. You're asking me to hire someone to cook Mexican food in my Irish pub?" He shuddered when he considered how his born-in-Dublin cook was likely to take to that news. Rory O'Malley was going to be slamming pots and pans around for a month, assuming he didn't simply walk off the job. Rory, with his thick Irish brogue and a belly the size of Santa's, thanks to his fondness for ale, had a kind heart, but he could throw a tantrum better than any temperamental French chef. Because his kitchen had never run more smoothly, Ryan tried his best to stay out of Rory's way and to do nothing to offend him. The priest plastered an upbeat expression on his face. "Ryan's place will become the most talked about restaurant in the city.